Thank you for your question, Hayden. My name is David McAvoy. I am a music maker and a climate activist. As I said, thanks for your question. My response to your question is this. Climate protesters around the globe are inundated with questions where the subtle inference is that we climate protesters are somehow different from everybody else. These questions, whether intentional or not, serve to divide us from the rest of humanity. They serve to separate us from others. Why do the media ask these types of questions? Because conflict sells news, harmony does not. The news outlets rely on the age-old dramatic structure of character, conflict and resolution. Except they intentionally keep their news stories in a state of perpetual conflict. They never get to the resolution. This is a conscious decision made by the news editors because perpetual conflict is addictive. And they need addicted viewers so they can sustain their advertising revenue. For the news outlets, it's purely a matter of business and survival. The problem with trying to tell the story of the climate emergency through our current media organisations and with our existing culture is that the story of the climate emergency doesn't fit with our present systems of competition and individualism. The climate emergency is not about competition. It is not about the individual. The story today is not about one person who beat a drum and lay on their back on Ghana country. It's not even about two people that glued themselves to glass. The climate emergency is about humanity and our societies and how they are unravelling due to global warming. The insidious nature of the journalistic questions is that their views and attitudes are contagious. The same rhetoric that is heard from the mouths of columnists and news editors is amplified by their addicted viewers. Sadly, these viewers do not think for themselves and they parrot these terrible questions in shopping malls, in schools and nursing homes, in workplaces and on the sporting field. If we are to have any hope of averting climate catastrophe, we must all play a part in this. Our friends Hayden, Grant, the person that wishes to remain anonymous. Luke, and Dylan are equally vital in playing their part to solve this crisis. If we take the now well-known and accurate analogy of a house on fire, it becomes obvious that we need everyone to help in this crisis. We need Grant to grab a hose, we need Hayden to ring 000, and we need Luke to help the children navigate their way through the smoke and out the front door to safety. The story of the climate emergency is ultimately about our connections with other people. It's the story of how together we can solve this climate crisis. It will happen through communication and cooperation. It will involve government. It will involve big corporations and big business. It will involve people talking to their neighbour over their back fence with a cup of tea. It will involve people organising and collaborating at all levels, from the grassroots to the United Nations. It will involve First Nations peoples, children, asylum seekers and refugees, older Australians, people from culturally diverse backgrounds, women, people living with disability, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, asexual, and other sexually or gender diverse people.
Sir, so what are you trying to say?
So what are, thank you sir, I'll keep going for a bit. So what are the right questions to ask? We must ask questions that enhance our understanding and empathy towards each other. We must ask questions that have at their core the knowledge that we are all part of one giant ecosystem, and therefore we need to foster and nourish our connections. A good question to ask of your family, friends, neighbours and colleagues is this: how are you feeling about global warming? And once we've asked that question, we need to listen. We need to listen actively and silently, with the knowledge that we are all in this together. We then need to ask our children the same question, because it is a simple question. How are you feeling about global warming? And then we need to actively and silently listen to their response. Together we will solve this climate emergency. There is one final person to whom we need to pose 3 questions. Ourselves. The first question is, how am I going to most effectively activate my privilege to help solve the climate crisis? The second question is, who is the best person I know that can help me with this, and how am I going to contact them? And the final question is, why is today the day that I will have the most positive and transformative effect in helping solve the climate emergency? Let me add that you don't need to know the answer to pose the question. And finally, what is there to lose by taking this approach? Nothing. Because even if we fail to halt global warming, even if we go beyond the tipping points and we witness the very real scientific predictions of war, famine, mass disease, mass human displacement and globally exhausted resources, even then, we still will have created a stronger, more organic, complex system of community that is built on empathy and understanding, cooperation and connection. Thank you.